It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
The Lincoln Spring Sales event is on now, and there's never been a better time to experience the feeling of driving a Lincoln. Pictures, sunlight through the available panoramic vista roof, music, weather, and maps on the 48-inch panoramic display, and a drive so smooth that inspiration rides up front. Stepping out better than you got in. That's the Lincoln feeling. Get behind the wheel of the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus SUV and discover exceptional offers only at your local Lincoln retailer.
Predator Badlands, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Here, you're not the predator. You're the prey. 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 Prey.
Critics are saying it's epic, stunning, and breathtaking.
Many have come here. None have survived.
Predator Badlands, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+, rated PG-13.
Ever wonder if the planets and stars influenced history's most notorious crimes?
Then welcome to your new favorite podcast. We're Hannah and Joanna, the host of Cosmic Crimes.
Every Thursday, we take the facts of a true crime story and blend it with astrology. We're talking birth charts, planetary movements, and transits on the day of the crime.
The crimes are serious, but are interpreted through our introspective and sometimes unhinged POVs.
Subscribe to Cosmic Crimes wherever you listen to podcasts.
And tune in every Thursday for a whole new spin on true crime.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. I'm your Twin Peaks veteran, Special Agent Matt Hanna.
And I'm your first-time viewer, Sheriff Hannah.
And each week, we're visiting David Lynch and Mark Frost's Twin Peaks on our new show, Welcome to Twin Peaks, a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast.
Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
We're talking dreams, damn fine coffee.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
Back we're talking mysteries.
And asking the important questions like, who really killed Laura Palmer? Are the owls what they seem? And why does this town feel like a nightmare you don't want to wake up from?
It is happening again.
Whether you're a longtime Twin Peaks resident or stepping into the Black Lodge for the very first time, Welcome to Twin Peaks is your guide through the woods.
What kind of fantastic trees have you got growing around here?
New episodes every week wherever you get podcasts.
And be sure to follow our socials at Welcome to Twin Peaks Podcast for schedules and opportunities to call and write into the show.
I'm gonna turn it upside down!
The mysteries are dense and the secrets are dark.
We'll see you in Twin Peaks with a fresh cup of coffee.
Thanks for listening to the Red Treehouse, where I tell you scary stories to keep you up at night. You can listen to the Red Treehouse wherever you stream podcasts. Just be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Oh, and leave a 5-star review. Important note: sources for this episode can be found in the show notes. The Red Treehouse is dedicated to my dad. I love you, Pop. Generally speaking, the internet has been a largely positive thing for society. Over the past 30+ years, it has allowed us to conduct research, create art, access news and information at our fingertips, connect with people all over the world from all walks of life, and more. Of course, as with anything, there are dark parts of the internet, and I'm not talking about the deep or dark web. In fact, you don't need to go much further than the comment section of your local news website, and you don't need to look hard to find social media trolls whose only function in life seems to be acting terribly towards complete strangers. Curate well though, and many of these pitfalls can be avoided. Every now and then though, a scary and horrible phenomenon makes its way into the public consciousness. And in 2018, the Momo challenge seemingly swept the world in a wave of fear and paranoia. Frantic parents posted all over social media as their kids whispered about Momo in school hallways. And at the time, I was a counselor at a local elementary school, and the anxiety on all sides was very real. Before I go any further, it's important to give a content warning. This episode contains discussions about mental health, self-harm, and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. A special shout out to Red Treehouse listener Tyler for suggesting I tell you the story of the Momo challenge. In this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're going to explore the harrowing and dangerous Momo challenge. Who or what is Momo? And was this scary challenge nothing more than an elaborate hoax or urban legend? I'll share the story. You decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Welcome to the Red Treehouse.
Walmart Business is in the business of saving you time, money, and hassle. Whether your business started in a garage or is a garage, Walmart Business has the tools to help you get where you're going. Tools like free shipping, multi-user accounts, and just about any item your company needs.
Even a double filtration cyclone dust collector.
Yep, even that.
Sweet.
Walmart Business. It's the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com. Terms apply.
Perhaps the most enduring aspect of the Momo challenge is the genuinely haunting image of Momo, a seeming woman with bulging eyes, thin and stringy black hair, and a strange, stretched grin. The more you look at the image, the more unsettling it becomes. The pallor of Momo's skin resembles that of a corpse. Her huge eyes seem to follow you at every turn, and the unnatural grin stretches from ear to ear. When the news broke in late 2018 that Momo was appearing in children's videos, the reaction was rightly one of concern. At the time, our youngest child was in first grade, and as parents, we would have been horrified to discover Momo popping up on his television or tablet. But how did all this start? According to a BBC article dated February 28, 2019, quote, "The original tale said a character with bulging eyes would hack into WhatsApp and set children dangerous challenges such as harming themselves. According to the story, children are contacted on WhatsApp by an account claiming to be Momo. Children are supposedly encouraged to save the character as a contact and are then asked to carry out challenges, as well as being told not to tell other members of their family." End quote. Based on this, it's easy to understand the immediate concern surrounding Momo's appearance and the subsequent challenges. As word of Momo spread, people claimed they were being contacted by Momo on different messaging platforms from another user with Momo as a profile picture. The messages were seemingly harmless, at least at first. Individuals were encouraged to participate in a series of escalating challenges, such as watching a scary movie, or staying up late, or talking back to their parents. But within a short time, the challenges became darker, scarier, and more dangerous, including those involving self-harm and suicide. And as anxiety and panic spread, reports began circulating about alleged tragedies linked to Momo, including the deaths of 130 teenagers in Russia, who all allegedly died by suicide. Except, there's no evidence to corroborate the claim. YouTube users claimed footage of Momo was hacked into children's programming such as Peppa Pig, though it was shown that the videos were uploaded independently of official channels, meaning YouTube users edited Momo into episodes of Peppa Pig, and then uploaded those unofficial videos to the site. So parents and children who viewed the unofficial Peppa Pig videos from the unofficial channels were exposed to the Momo edit. Of course, this leaves us with a common sense question. If these videos were real, why not simply turn them off or ignore them altogether? According to some, the messages included personal information and made it seem as though the sender knew the recipient personally and could potentially harm them if they refused to comply. The fear of Momo was now multiplied, because not only could Momo appear at any time and in any video, effectively bypassing content filters and security settings, but also because Momo appeared to have some measure of omniscience. It knew who you were, where you lived, what you looked like, and could use all of that against you to force you into doing what she wanted. Except here's the thing. Investigations into the alleged Momo sightings and subsequent dangers came up with no evidence. A CNN article dated March 1, 2019 stated, quote, "The Momo challenge is hard to describe because there's not a lot of proof it actually exists. To the best of everyone's knowledge, there's almost no evidence to prove it's actually a real thing." End quote. And there's something else. Momo's oft-described demonic face was actually a sculpture by a Japanese special effects company and an artist named Keisuke Iso. And while the photos of Momo that circulated during the height of the panic showed just her face, the full sculpture is actually called Motherbird and features the famous head and neck attached to chicken-like legs. And if that's all Momo really is, the real question is, why are we prone to unfounded hysteria? We'll explore this right after this quick ad break. Content warning. This episode contains discussions about mental health, self-harm, and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. The Momo challenge wasn't the first time we've been plunged into an unfounded mass hysteria. And in fact, it wasn't the first internet moral panic. In May 2016, the Blue Whale Challenge sparked a similar reaction after encouraging players to complete a set of increasingly dangerous and scary tasks over a 50-day period. As the days wore on, players were encouraged to self-harm and ultimately die by suicide. Originating in Russia, the Blue Whale Challenge is often described similarly to the Momo Challenge, as nothing more than an elaborate hoax intended to scare parents and teens. But unlike Momo, the Blue Whale Challenge may have begun with the tragic suicide of 16-year-old Renata Kombolina, whose death was discussed widely in internet forums and groups. In a short time, the tragedy was mixed with folklore and scare stories, and eventually led to allegations of death groups, where a large number of participants completed the final stage of the Blue Whale Challenge. Something interesting. During the height of the Momo Challenge, it was alleged that 130 teenagers died by suicide, which was shown to be untrue. At the height of the Blue Whale Challenge, it was alleged that 130 teenagers died by suicide, which too was shown to lack evidence and determined to be untrue. Beyond these challenges, public moral panic and hysteria are relatively commonplace. In the early 2000s, religious and conservative groups spread panic and fear over the Harry Potter series, alleging that it promoted witchcraft and that by allowing children to watch or read, parents would be exposing them to satanic and demonic influences. In the years before that, music and violent video games came under intense scrutiny as they were claimed to contribute negatively to society. And in some cases, video games in particular were debated as to whether or not they influenced or promoted violent behavior. In the decade before that, the Satanic Panic gripped America and parts of the world with fear and terror. Widespread paranoia over child trafficking rings hell-bent on sacrificing children to Satan led to arrests, lengthy prison sentences, and entire communities changed, reshaped, and destroyed. And none of it was true. We also don't need to look too hard to find information about McCarthyism in the 1950s, the Red Scare of the 1920s, and perhaps most famous of all, the Salem witch trials of the 1690s. And we're living in a time right now where social phobias of all kinds are contributing to atrocious human rights violations. But it leaves us with an unsettling question. Why do Momo and other social panics affect us so deeply? These moral panics, like the Momo Challenge and the Blue Whale Challenge, affect us because they cut to the deepest parts of our emotions. They feel real because they're rooted in real-world phenomenon. Cyberbullying really does exist. I've played video games online, and it doesn't take more than a few seconds of gameplay to hear the worst insults and threats. So when we hear about Momo, who first appears innocent and then quickly turns sinister, it makes good sense that it could be real. These panics also generally involve children, which activates a protective response for most of us. As the parents of 3 teenagers, my wife and I are diligent in keeping our kids safe and would do anything to protect them from harm. I imagine this is true for most people as well. Children are among the most vulnerable in society and dependent on others to fill a variety of needs, safety being one of the most important. So when vulnerable children are threatened and safety becomes a question mark, it rightly moves us to action. More than a faceless name and message, Momo was also visually striking. The exaggerated image was scary, and even more so if you weren't expecting it, and then were told it could pop up anywhere at any time. The visual made the threat feel real, as if to say, this specific thing right here is threatening me. And let's consider how the Momo Challenge spread, through the internet at first, but also through people we trust. I mentioned earlier that I was a school counselor at the time Momo came into the world, and I remember talking about it with coworkers, teachers, school resource officers, administration, and parents. These are people we look to for guidance, advice, help, and protection. So when they express concern, it hits us differently, as a real threat that had to be guarded against diligently. In all of these ways, the Momo Challenge felt rooted in reality, and in the absence of certainty, we often look for possibility and ask ourselves, can this happen to us? A Psychology Today article dated July 20th, 2015, which predates both the Momo Challenge and the Blue Whale Challenge, offers a fascinating perspective. Quote, central to the moral panic concept is an argument that public concern or fear over an alleged social problem is mutually beneficial to state officials, that is, politicians and law enforcement authorities, and the news media. The relationship between state officials and the media is symbiotic, in that politicians and law enforcement need communication channels to distribute their rhetoric, and the media need tantalizing news content to attract a wide audience, which in turn attracts advertisers. Moral panics arise when distorted mass media campaigns are used to create fear, reinforce stereotypes, and exacerbate pre-existing divisions in the world, often based on race, ethnicity, and social class. Additionally, moral panics have 3 distinguishing characteristics. First, there is a focused attention on the behavior, whether real or imagined, of certain individuals or groups that are transformed into what Cohen referred to as folk devils by the mass media. This is accomplished when the media strip these folk devils of all favorable characteristics and apply exclusively negative ones. Second, there is a gap between the concern over a condition and the objective threat it poses. Typically, the objective threat is far less than popularly perceived due to how it is presented by authorities. Third, there is a great deal of fluctuation over time in the level of concern over a condition. The typical pattern begins with the discovery of the threat, followed by a rapid rise and then peak in public concern, which then subsequently, and often abruptly, subsides. Finally, public hysteria over a perceived problem often results in the passing of legislation that is highly punitive, unnecessary, and serves to justify the agendas of those in positions of power and authority." End quote. In the case of the Momo challenge, within a few months, by early 2019, the hysteria had largely died down, and shortly after that, it faded entirely from the public consciousness as it was declared to be a hoax. The effect, though, however exaggerated, was felt across the country as schools tightened their security and offered more proactive education on internet safety, and social media platforms refined moderation policies and began filtering out questionable or dangerous content. But just like the panics that came before it, Momo was ultimately left behind. I'll admit, I always feel ambivalent towards the next great moral panic. Having lived through them since the 80s, they remind me that while people generally mean well, we are often gullible and prone to suggestions without doing the requisite research that would assuage our fears and anxieties. But don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not blaming anyone other than those who take advantage of our trusting nature, because truly, the Momo challenge and every other panic wouldn't have taken root if the constant stream of sensationalized misinformation were simply turned off. At the same time, internet dangers exist no matter how well we protect ourselves. Cyberbullying exists. Internet trolls exist. Swatting and doxing exist. Pedophiles and other dangerous people exist. And they all exist on the internet. And all require diligence, and at times hypervigilance, to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe. As we close this episode of the Red Treehouse, we're left with this lingering question. How will we guard ourselves against the next dark, viral internet challenge? I've shared the details. Now you decide for yourself. I'm your host, Will. Thanks for joining me in the Red Treehouse.